Well, brand new numbers out from the GOP on the new health care law, and these are fighting words directed at the White House. According to the latest projections from the ranking Republican on the Senate Budget Committee, look at this. They say there will be a deficit increase of $618 billion over the next 10 years, with a deficit increase of $1.8 trillion over the second 10 years. House Minority Leader John Boehner joins me live to discuss this. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, Mr. Minority Leader. Those numbers are pretty shocking when it talks about the red ink we're about to, as John Stossel put it earlier, foist off on our children. You know, the Democrats say that's just not right. All along they've told us that this is going to be a cost-saving measure. So how do you get to these huge deficit numbers?
Well, you know, the Congressional Budget Office can only score what they're given and in the way it's given to them. And what's becoming clearer every day are the gimmicks that were used in order to show that this was actually going to save money. When you start double counting the $500 billion in Medicare cuts, you start double counting some of the money that's going into the long-term care program that is supposed to be there to pay benefits 20 years from now, except we're going to spend it today on a new entitlement program. And so it's been clear to many of us that this is a budget-busting health care bill that I think is going to bankrupt our country.
All right, but you know that's such an extraordinary statement. It is going to bankrupt our country. Walk me through that, because you, the Republicans, say the money's not there to pay for this thing, and nonetheless, the entitlements are coming. We are doing this. It's a law now. So where is the money going to come from?
Well, it's either come from the backs of our kids and grandkids, like 43 cents of every dollar that we're spending this year, or it's going to come from increased taxes on small businesses in America at a time when, you know, we're asking them to create jobs because the American people are asking us, where are the jobs? You know, and so it's not going to come out of thin air.
You know, Dick Durbin, a Democrat in the Senate, was on another network this morning talking about this, and he says, forget tax hikes. It's going to be just the opposite. Take a listen to what he said.
Joe, you know, I keep hearing you every morning talking about the biggest tax increase in history, but you don't mention it's also the biggest tax cut in history. We have almost $500 billion in tax cuts, and the tax cuts go to small businesses to help pay for health insurance premiums. They're going to go to individuals who can't afford their health insurance premiums. It really is going to make certain everybody has a chance for affordable health insurance. We welcome this debate.
Is that true?
Well, I don't think it's true at all. Yes, are there some subsidies in here for people to buy health insurance? Yes, there are. But when you look at the tax increases that are being put on the backs of small business people all over the country, I don't think you could ever find a way to call this a tax cut.
What could happen now? You know, because there was talk yesterday about the possibility that the Democrats would have to implement a national sales tax to pay for this, that perhaps they would just raise other taxes on the middle class to pay for this, or there was also talk about perhaps if the Republicans retake the majority in 2010 of the Republicans just refusing to fund this. I mean, what realistically is going to happen over the next 8 to 10 months?
Well, I think that we need to repeal this bill and replace it with common sense reforms that'll bring down the cost of health insurance. But with a Democrat president for the next 2.5 years, even if we gained the majority, it's going to be very difficult to repeal this bill outright. But things like if I were the Speaker of the House and we were in the majority, I'd have a bill on the floor that would eliminate the $500 billion worth of Medicare cuts. I would have a bill on the floor that takes away this individual mandate and the employer mandate, and the tax increases. In addition to that, you're just going to take appropriated funds to actually come through the process to fund the hiring of new employees, to create these new bureaucracies. I can't imagine that a Republican Congress is going to give this president the money to begin this process.
Now, I want to ask you, sir, because there's been a lot of news out there about the climate on Capitol Hill. And some of the Tea Party members were accused of misbehaving when we saw the bill being voted on. And even some members on the House floor were accused of misbehaving. We heard one yell out, "It's a baby killer," about the bill and so on. You had some thoughts on the climate and the hostilities on Capitol Hill.
Well, there are a lot of angry Americans, and they're angry over this health care bill. They're angry about the fact that the Democrats here in Washington aren't listening to them. But I've got to tell you that violence and threats are unacceptable. It is not the American way. Yes, I know there's anger, but let's take that anger and go out and register people to vote. Go volunteer on a political campaign, and let's do it the right way.
Okay.
I'm concerned about the amount of violence and anger that's out there, but it's unacceptable.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be right back. Don't go away.